My name is Riva. I'm 24, and this story doesn't start with fire. It starts with keys, or rather, the absence of them. It was Thursday evening, early April, still too cold to leave the windows open, but warm enough that our creaky heater had finally been silenced for the season. I came home from work around 6:40, my backpack sore against my right shoulder, the taste of burnt office coffee still lingering on my tongue, and I reached, like I always did, for the hook by the door where I kept my keys. But my keys weren't there. More specifically, my car keys weren't there. My first instinct wasn't suspicion, it was forgetfulness. Had I left them in my jacket, my lunch bag, on my desk? I checked all of it. That's when I looked out the window. The driveway was empty, just my mom's Volvo, my dad's pickup, no sign of my 2006 Corolla, the one I'd bought used, with the money I'd saved from working weekends all through college, the one with the coffee stain on the passenger seat, and the bobblehead dog on the dash, the one that still had my name on the title, even if it was technically parked in their garage. I stood there for a long time, longer than I should have. I think a part of me already knew. "Dinner's in 10, my mom called from the kitchen. She didn't even look up. "Where's my car?" I asked. That got her attention. "Oh, right." She wiped her hands on a towel, then moved to stir the pot on the stove. "We sold it." No pause. No explanation. Just those 3 words. You'd think I misheard. I didn't. "You sold it?" She nodded like she was confirming the weather. "Sophie needed the rest of the payment for her surgery." "Surgery? She's getting her nose done. You know that." I didn't. Or maybe I did, and had blocked it out. Sophie talked a lot about her face on good days. She called it fixable. On bad days, she said our family genes had committed war crimes. I never said that was okay. It was just sitting there, my dad added from the living room. He was half watching a basketball game, half scrolling his phone. "You barely drive anywhere. I use it to go to work. You can take the bus." That was it. That was the whole conversation. They had forged my signature. I'd learn that part later. Or maybe they just casually signed, where needed. Either way, the car was gone. So was the independence that came with it. But that wasn't what got me. It was what my mom said next. "You don't really need a social life anyway, right? You're not the going out type." I should have screamed, demanded the money back, threatened legal action. Instead, I nodded once and went upstairs. Because some people fight loud, and some people wait. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. I made coffee, packed my lunch, and left the house in silence. It took 3 buses to get to work. One transfer involved a 14-minute walk between stops. Another had me wedged between 2 men arguing about lottery tickets. The commute, one way, was almost 2 hours. I arrived at 8:57. I was still early. No one at work knew what had happened. I didn't tell them. What would I say? That my parents, who lived in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in a safe suburban zip code, had sold my only mode of transportation without asking, so that my sister could fix a nose she'd been complaining about since junior high. That wouldn't sound like tragedy. It would sound like dysfunction dressed up as normal. I work in a real estate office. Midtown. Nothing glamorous. Entry-level admin. I'm the one who double-checks the signatures, preps the listing packets, updates the MLS databases when a property closes. No one notices me unless something goes wrong. I'm okay with that. That week, I stayed late every day. Caught the late bus home. My shoes wore down on the right side from all the walking. I didn't complain. Not when my parents told me Sophie's doctor had already scheduled her second appointment. Not when my mom laughed and said, "Imagine what your sister could have looked like if we'd done this sooner." Not even when Sophie, smiling under gauze and bruises, joked at dinner. "Hey, Riva, maybe if your nose was just a little straighter, someone might want to date you too." She laughed. They laughed. I smiled and excused myself to do the dishes. Later that night, as I emptied the dishwasher, I found one of my old pay stubs in the trash. The envelope had been open, the document crumpled and half torn. I never found out who looked at it. I didn't ask. I just stared at the numbers, my weekly wage, the taxes, the total, and felt nothing, absolutely nothing. That Saturday, my sister threw a party. Her nosecast was off, her Instagram had a new profile picture, and the house was filled with makeup tutorials, scented candles, and laughter from people I didn't recognize. At one point, I passed through the kitchen to grab water. One of Sophie's friends looked me up and down. "Are those orthopedic shoes?" she whispered, not quite whispering. Sophie grinned. "Budget queens rise." They all laughed. I didn't say anything. Just walked back to my room, locked the door, sat at my desk and turned on the light. There, in the corner of the desk drawer, was a folder I'd almost forgotten about. Inside, photocopies of title documents, warranty deeds, escrow memos I'd quietly saved from work over the last year, not for revenge, not for anything, just in case. That night, I made a spreadsheet. It had 5 tabs. One was titled House Valuation. When I showed up to work Monday morning, no one noticed anything different. I made coffee for the office, answered phones, updated a few listings. But when my manager, Clarissa, asked if anyone could help reformat a property flyer, I offered. "Didn't know you knew InDesign," she said. I didn't. I learned. The following week, I stayed late again. But this time, not to catch up. This time, I stayed to ask quiet questions, learn processes, understand gaps, how listings work, how titles transfer, how long it takes to make a house disappear. I didn't raise my voice, didn't demand anything. I just smiled, took the bus to work, and waited, because revenge doesn't always arrive in fire. Sometimes it walks in through the back door with copies of your mail, and a signature you didn't know you gave. 2 weeks after my car was sold, the garage stayed empty. No apology came, no offer to help with transit, no repayment. My mom did ask if I could stop leaving my bus shoes by the front door because they smell like train stations. I moved them to the laundry room. It was easier that way. At work, I started volunteering for more. Filing, intake, mail sorting. It didn't seem unusual. I already did the boring stuff. No one fights to open bills or scan property tax forms. So when Clarissa asked if someone could organize the incoming mail from county offices' permits, tax liens, probate claims, I raised my hand. She handed over 2 bankers' boxes and a rolling chair to work from. I sat in the back hallway, alone, sorting people's forgotten obligations into neat little piles, foreclosures, refinances, title errors. You learn a lot from paperwork. You learn what people miss, what they sign without reading, what they owe without knowing. At home, things were normal, which is to say, quietly cruel. Sophie was healing well. The bruises faded fast, but the attitude stuck around. Her new nose gave her permission to act like a stranger. She posed for photos in our living room, tagging makeup brands like she was auditioning for a sponsorship. "Riva, can you take a few with this lighting?" she asked one evening. I stood in front of her while she pouted and smiled and turned her head side to side like a showroom mannequin. "Good," she said, scrolling through the shots. "Even you couldn't mess these up." I nodded. Glad I could help. She didn't say thank you. That weekend, I offered to pick up the mail. Our mailbox isn't far, just 3 houses down, part of a cluster box unit our HOA installed back in 2008. The key had been taped inside the kitchen drawer for years. I took the stack home. Junk, mostly. One letter stood out, brown envelope, government seal, addressed to my mother. It was from the county clerk's office. I placed it on the counter. The next morning, it was still there. 2 mornings later, still unopened. Day 3, my mother picked it up, glanced at it, and said, "Boring finance stuff. Just handle it, Riva. You're good at that." And that's how I started opening their mail. No power of attorney, no legal delegation, just a quiet assumption that I would sort it, scan it, and file it. I didn't object. I just nodded and said, "Sure." Inside the envelope was a routine notice. Confirmation of estate division for properties previously held by the deceased. The deceased was Grandma Mabel, my father's mother. She passed 6 years ago. The house we lived in now had once belonged to her. Technically, it still partially did. See, when she died, her share of the property, 1/3, was never legally reassigned. My parents had been too busy to handle the paperwork. Probate lapsed. No executor was listed. Meaning, the property was still tied up in county records. Meaning, someone needed to file a claim. Meaning, I could file it. I read the document 3 times, highlighted the relevant lines, cross-referenced the statute number, then I did what I always did. I filed it away, quietly, in a blue folder labeled House Mabel. At dinner, my father asked if I could help him upload bank statements for taxes. "I don't like all this online portal crap," he grunted. "You know how to do it, right?" I nodded. "Of course." He handed me the envelope with a joke. "I'm making you our CFO, Chief Family Obligation." Sophie giggled. "She's already our butler. Might as well make it official." I took the envelope and excused myself. That night, I logged into the portal, updated the files, verified the address, double-checked their property tax records. Then I created a digital folder with a password only I knew. I saved the login under a new email address, one with my name in it. The next day at work, Clarissa caught me reviewing a zoning map during lunch. She squinted. "That ours?" "Number, just looking at sample overlays." "You thinking about getting licensed?" I hadn't planned on it. I'd thought about it. "There's a difference." "Eventually," I said. She nodded. "You'd be good at it. Quiet ones usually are." Then she handed me a manila folder. "Can you scan this too? Probate documents?" "Just a backup." I opened the folder and stopped. The first page was identical to the one I'd seen at home. Same estate notice, same county seal, same blank executor line, different address, different name. But the process? The same. I read through the steps. Filing time. under 30 minutes. Approval time, 7 to 10 business days. That evening, my mom had a glass of wine with dinner. She got chatty. Started talking about how Sophie's boyfriend was getting serious. Said they were already talking about moving in together. Maybe even eloping. It's about time, she said. You know, Riva, you should consider online dating. I heard they have apps for your kind. My kind? She waved her hand. You know, the quiet ones. I didn't respond. Just kept eating. That's the thing about you, she added. You're so obedient, reliable. You've always been that way, even as a kid. She smiled like it was a compliment. I looked at my plate. Stir-fried broccoli, brown rice. It tasted like nothing. That night, I filled out the executor form. I printed it, signed it, scanned it, uploaded it, submitted. Total time, 18 minutes. The confirmation email came in 22 seconds later. On the bus ride to work the next morning, I watched Sophie post a new photo. New knows who dis, glow up. Not sponsored, just pretty. The likes were already climbing. I closed the app, opened my notes app, typed 4 words. They never see quiet. Executor status came through on a Tuesday. The email was short. Your request has been approved. Attached was a PDF certificate, county sealed and time-stamped. There was no ceremony, no dramatic drum roll, no one to witness it, just a notification, sitting quietly in my inbox, like any other bill or coupon code. But something shifted in the room when I opened it, like the air got thinner, like the house felt smaller. At work, I printed the document and slid it into my blue House Mabel folder. I filed it behind a copy of our property's warranty deed, the one I'd scanned a week earlier during my practice session. The original was still in the kitchen drawer under the takeout menus, but no one had looked at it in years. They didn't need to. I had everything I needed now. Executor of Mabel J. Dwyer's estate, deceased 2017, survived by son Thomas Dwyer, residence 47 Lambridge Lane, also residing his wife, non-titled, his eldest daughter, cosmetic beneficiary, and his youngest daughter, invisible. That evening, Sophie came home with shopping bags. Nothing major. A few new dresses, some shoes she'd been eyeing. Nothing fits right anymore, she said, tossing a receipt onto the table. Post-surgery problems. It's tragic. My mom nodded, sympathetic. Your new silhouette's gonna need a whole new wardrobe. Then she turned to me. Riva, can you handle the utility payments this month? I forgot the login again. I was mid-bite. Chewed. Swallowed. Sure, I said. They didn't notice that the receipt Sophie tossed onto the table had landed on my open mail. The same county seal. The same executor notice. She never saw it, not even when she reached for her ginger ale. Later that night, I sat at the kitchen counter while they watched a movie. My dad snored through most of it. Sophie scrolled Instagram. My mom dozed off with wine in her hand. I spread the bills across the granite counter. Water, gas, property insurance. The mortgage was paid off. Mabel had seen to that before she passed. But taxes? Maintenance? Legal updates? Those were trickier. I paid the property tax bill online, $1,286.17. Used my debit card. Quiet investment. The county system updated instantly. Primary contact, Riva Dwyer. They'd given me the login months ago. Said I was better at that stuff. They weren't wrong. The next morning, Clarissa found me in the break room scanning documents. You're early. Bus was fast today. She sipped her coffee. Watched me label a folder. Escrow package, Harris Avenue. You know, she said. We're short one assistant for the foreclosure team. Just admin, for now. But if you're interested, I'm interested. She blinked, smiled, didn't even finish the offer. I don't need to. That afternoon, we processed a property under lien threat. The owner hadn't paid taxes in 3 years. Ignored every notice. His daughter had been opening the mail, tossing it. We listed the house by the end of the week. Clarissa called it legal inevitability. I called it familiar. That Friday, Sophie had friends over again. Loud ones, hair extensions, fake nails, laughter that stuck to the walls like grease. One of them wandered into the kitchen while I was microwaving leftovers. Hi, she said, glancing around. You the maid? No, I said. Just the one who pays the taxes. She laughed like I'd made a joke. Later, I heard her ask Sophie, so your parents just let your sister live here too? Sophie, she's not really part of the house. She's attached to it, like a barnacle. I didn't react, didn't confront her. I just added a note to my folder. Asset disposition, emotionally detached occupants. On Sunday, I was cleaning out a storage bin when I found it. A drawing I'd made when I was 11. The house, crayon blue roof, yellow windows, tiny flowers in the front yard. Underneath it, in shaky print, home equals safe. I stared at it for a long time. Then I flipped it over. On the back was a faint pencil sketch. Someone had used it to draft out dimensions, door widths, pipelines. It was one of Mabel's original notations. Her handwriting, unmistakable, right there, layered beneath mine, like the house was trying to talk back. That night we had Chinese takeout. Sophie complained about the sodium content. My dad argued with the fortune cookie. Mom flipped through her planner, talking about refinancing the kitchen. "I'm thinking we pull some equity out," she said. "Sophie's thinking of opening a boutique." My dad nodded. "We'll need a co-signer. You good with numbers, Riva? You can handle the paperwork." Sophie snorted. "She's good at boring things. That's her skill set." My mom laughed. "Well, everyone has a role." I smiled, stabbed a piece of broccoli with my fork, said nothing. The next morning, I submitted a change of contact on the MLS database. It wasn't a public listing, just a placeholder, a test entry, private, anonymous, but functional. I clicked save. The system processed the change. Status, coming soon. The first sign came from the mailbox. A crisp white envelope, thicker than usual, with raised lettering and a professional logo pressed into the corner. Mansell & Lowe, residential real estate. It was addressed to property owner 47 Lambridge Lane. Not to my parents, just the address. No one thought anything of it. My mom handed it to me like she always did now, flipping through the rest of the junk mail. Looks boring, probably HOA crap. I opened it that night when no one was looking. Inside, a glossy business card, a brief typed letter. "Dear homeowner, we've recently had inquiries about your property from serious buyers interested in homes within your area. Should you ever consider selling, we would be honored to assist you in exploring your options. We believe 47 Lambridge could fetch a compelling offer in today's market." There was a line highlighted in yellow. "Inquire now for a private showing." I folded the letter and added it to my folder. The next day, I scheduled a showing. Not officially, just a walk-by, a test. The realtor, James, didn't know he was talking to the owner's daughter. He just thought I was someone connected to the estate, a legal representative, which technically wasn't wrong. He stood on our lawn at 4:15 p.m. the following Thursday, his collared shirt tucked into slacks that didn't quite fit. He walked slowly past the house, eyes lingering on the trim, the gutters, the windows. He didn't knock, didn't take pictures, just observed. When he left, he dropped another card in the mailbox. That night, my father was furious. "Some guy was snooping around today," he grumbled over meatloaf. "Real estate weasel, acting like we were for sale." My mom frowned. "Did you call the HOA?" I told him we weren't selling and to piss off. Sophie didn't look up from her phone. I shrugged. Weird. Then I changed the subject. 2 days later, my dad was back at it. "This mailbox is getting out of control. 3 mortgage ads, 2 loan offers. What the hell's going on?" I offered to sort them for him. He waved his hand, already distracted. "You do it. You always do it." He didn't even look up. I took the stack, filed 2 into the trash pile. The other 3 went into my room. At work, I asked Clarissa a question. "Hypothetically," I said, "if someone wanted to sell a property without making it public, how would they do it?" She didn't blink. "Pocket listing, quiet market push, off-market deal, all legal." "Why?" "Just curious." She studied me. "You planning to flip a house?" "Something like that." She smiled. "You'd be terrifying with a license." I didn't disagree. That weekend, a second letter came from a different realtor. This one included a preliminary valuation, $538,000, as is. No renovation. Full cash close in 45 days. I printed it, slid it into the folder behind the drawing I found in storage. The one with home equals safe scribbled in crayon. The one that no longer felt true. On Monday night, during dinner, my mother brought it up casually. "I heard from Melanie down the street that someone asked about buying her place. Says real estate's booming." My dad rolled his eyes. "These vultures are everywhere. Probably Chinese buyers again, or Californians." Sophie picked at her salad. "If we ever sell, I'm claiming my room's value. That vanity's worth like $800. "You're not selling anything," my dad barked. "We're not going anywhere." Then he looked at me, right at me, and said, "This house isn't for sale." I nodded, but I didn't say the words back. That week, I received confirmation from the private MLS system. My test listing had cleared initial compliance. It wasn't public, but it was now visible to select agents. Agents like James, the same one who'd walked our lawn. Friday afternoon, Clarissa stopped by my desk. "Got a weird question." "Okay. You didn't happen to list a property from your home computer, did you?" I blinked. "Why?" "Just that a flagged test listing popped up with your metadata." "Not a problem, just unusual." I smiled. That was me, practicing. She nodded. "You're getting bolder. Is that bad?" "No," she said. "It's impressive. I like people who test the system." She tapped the folder I was filing. If you ever want to make this a career, I'll sponsor your license. My hands froze mid-paperclip. Then I nodded. Okay. That night, I opened my laptop, pulled up the listing, 47 Lambridge Lane, still marked as private, still in draft status, still under my name. I hovered over the option that said, Published, Coming Soon, Pocket Listing. Didn't click it. Not yet. Instead, I opened Zillow, searched the property, scrolled to the bottom, where it said, Claim this home. I clicked, filled in the details, verified the documents, uploaded the executor form, checked the confirmation box. I am the legal representative of this property, and hit submit. 2 hours later, I received the email. Congratulations, your property has been verified. Viewership and buyer estimates will be sent within 48 hours. The next morning, the air in the house felt heavier, the walls tighter, the floorboards louder, like the house knew it was being watched, like it was holding its breath. So I did what I always do. I smiled, went downstairs, and checked the mailbox. The last thing I expected was to be invited. Sophie was hosting her engagement dinner, intimate, curated, influencer adjacent, her words, not mine. She made sure to say it wasn't a real party, more like a brand soft launch of her new life. Hand-picked guests, matching dresses, custom hashtag. But she still needed someone to take photos and set up chairs and keep the dog from chewing on the... I got the text at 3:17 p.m. Sophie, hey, wear black, no logos, bring your phone charger, don't embarrass me. There was no greeting. The living room was cleared out. She'd rented chairs, gold trim, cream cushion, fragile enough to squeak if you breathed to. There were candles, fake ivy, 2 ring-shaped balloon arches, and an LED sign that said, Number said yes to better. I wasn't sure if it meant to be. She handed me a phone gimbal. This time, can you not get my bad side? I wasn't aware you had one. She blinked, not sure if it was sarcasm or not. Then she smirked. Funny. Dinner was catered avocado canapes, beetroot sliders, truffle popcorn in glass jars, all for 12 people, all carefully curated to look effortless. At one point, a guest asked Sophie how she managed the event budget. Oh, she said with a practiced laugh, just family sacrifices. Some people give up dresses, some give up weekends. Mine gave up her car. She looked right at me when she said it. The guests laughed. One of them looked at me and said, That's love. I smiled and said, It was. No one noticed the past tense. After the last plate was cleared, Sophie made a toast to new beginnings and leaving the boring people behind. Another laugh, another camera flash. I stood by the kitchen doorway, silent. The balloon arch behind her flickered. One of the LED strips was loose, and for a second, it looked like the word better was glitching, a flicker of truth in a sea of curated lies. The next morning, I checked the MLS portal. The listing was still in draft mode, still waiting. I stared at the screen, hovered over the button, clicked one. Are you sure you want to publish? I clicked again. Listing, status, coming soon, private. That was it. No alarm, no cinematic music, no instant thunderclap, just a silent upload. And an invisible countdown. At breakfast, my mom asked me to walk the dog, the one I hadn't wanted, the one Sophie insisted on but never took care of. Take him before noon, she said. Someone's coming to spray for ants. Ants, in a house they thought they'd never lose. I walked the dog around the block, watched a neighbor's for sale sign being taken down, watched the new family carry in cardboard boxes. The father waved. I waved back. He looked happy, tired, but happy. Back home, I received an email from the same realtor as before, James. Subject, interest in 47 Lambridge Lane. Hi, Riva, saw your off-market status go live. Have a couple cash clients who might be a fit. Would love to do a walkthrough or at least a valuation drive-by. Let me know your timing. I responded, discreet only. No signage. 3 days notice before first walkthrough. He replied, understood. No one will know. That evening, my father called me into the living room. You used the wrong login on the HOA portal. I didn't. He frowned. They sent me an alert, said the account holder changed. I updated the contact and it was out of date. Don't do that again. I was just helping. Sophie walked by at that moment. Maybe she's just prepping to sell us to the highest bidder. They laughed. I didn't. Later that night, I opened my inbox. James had sent over an early valuation pack. Market range, $515,000 to $570,000. Expected offers, 4 to 6 if marketed properly. Recommended status, private showing full MLS by day 7. I printed it, placed it in a separate envelope, wrote on the front, FYI. I didn't seal it. I left it on the kitchen counter. Not to be found, to be seen. The next morning, it was gone. Nothing was said, but the energy shifted. I could feel it. My mother barely looked at me at breakfast. Sophie didn't speak at all. My father's coffee cup hit the table a little too hard, and no one asked me to pay a single bill that day. At work, Clarissa called me into her office. Got a weird one, she said, handing me a file. I opened it. Foreclosure notice, Mistaken identity. Property title had 2 names, one deceased, one living, but no executor had been named. You ever seen this before? I nodded. A few times. She raised an eyebrow. Let me guess you fixed it. I made it cleaner. She smiled. I like how you work. I like working where people read the fine print. She leaned back in her chair. People don't, usually. They skim, they sign, they hand over power and wonder why things collapse. I said nothing, but I thought about my mother, who skimmed and signed and handed over the house. That night, I received one more email from James. First buyer locked, requesting soft walkthrough. Can we do Sunday 2 p.m.? I looked at the calendar. It was Sophie's bridal fit. Perfect. Sunday afternoon came with its usual church bells, but inside 47 Lambridge Lane, something was off. Sophie left at 1:05 in a flurry of makeup, tulle swat, and passive aggression. I don't care what Mom says. I'm wearing ivory. Deal with it. No one replied. At 1:12 p.m., I straightened the doormat. At 1:17, I wiped a fingerprint off. At 1:22, I opened the living room blinds just enough to let the light in enough to glare. At 1:28, James pulled up. He didn't use a branded car. He wore business casual, no jacket, no name tag, no clipboard. Just a man with a quiet smile and a tablet tucked under his arm. He rang the doorbell once. I opened it. Hi, he said. Still good? Still good. I stepped aside. He entered the house like it was already vacant. He moved efficiently, measured distances with practiced step, noted flooring condition, window trims, ceiling height, asked how old the appliances were. I answered politely, mechanically. He didn't need emotion. He needed data. At one point he paused at the fireplace and looked around. Feels like the kind of house that's seen a lot of holidays. It has, I said. He nodded. Good bones. Lived in. Quiet. Then he looked at me. You sure you want to sell? It was a question layered in 10 others. I didn't blink. I'm sure. He left at 1:53 p.m. I closed the door behind him, locked it. My parents returned at 2:40. The moment my dad walked in, he paused. He sniffed the air. Someone was here. I didn't look up from my tea. A friend from work. Realtor. He froze. What the hell do you mean, realtor? Just doing a valuation. My mother stepped in behind him, purse still slung over her shoulder. A what? Market interest is high. Thought it'd be smart to understand our equity. This house isn't for sale, my dad said, his voice low. No? I stood. Because legally it's no longer just yours to say. My mom narrowed her eyes. What's that supposed to mean? I walked to the drawer, pulled out a folder, set it on the kitchen counter like a waiter placing a bill. The same blue folder. The one they'd ignored for months. Executor rights. Transfer documentation. Probate clearance, property tax receipts, current valuation, pending buyer inquiry, take your pick. My dad looked down at the pages like they were written in another language. This is a joke. I didn't speak. My mother flipped through a few pages, then stopped. Wait, this says the house was partially unclaimed. That's not Tom. Didn't you file the deed after your mother passed? He said nothing, just stared at the folder like it was ticking. You said the mortgage was clear. It was. But you didn't file the... I forgot, okay? His voice cracked on the last word. I watched my mother's face fall, not from shock, from realization. The silence that followed wasn't confusion. It was the moment they understood they were no longer in control. Not legally, not structurally, not financially. That night, no one ate dinner. No one spoke. Sophie came home late, giddy from her fitting. They added lace to the sleeves. Oh, and Riva, when the dress arrives, don't touch it, okay? It's delicate, and I don't want your smell on it. No one laughed. No one answered. She furrowed her brows. Okay, weird energy in here. She went upstairs. At 10:12 p.m., I received a text from James. James. Buyer ready to submit letter of intent. You want to proceed? I didn't answer right away. I opened the kitchen drawer again, pulled out the picture I'd taken of Mabel's handwriting, the sketch she'd left behind on the back of my childhood drawing. Door width, 30 inches. Storm drain, north slope, leave room for swing bench. I smiled. She had planned this house with precision. Every angle, every shadow, even the bench no one ever sat on. And now, I was planning its exit the same way. Not in anger, in order. I typed back, me. Proceed? No rush, but lock the offer. James, got it. We'll package it clean. No alarms. I closed my phone. Heard the pipes groan in the wall behind me, old metal expanding under water pressure, like the house was sighing. The next morning, I printed the offer, placed it in the folder, added a sticky note. For your review. I left it on the table, next to the napkin holder, between the salt and the sugar, right where they'd see it, but wouldn't know what to do with it. They didn't speak to me all day. And when Sophie asked what was wrong, my mom just said, something in the walls. 3 days passed before my father spoke to me again. It was 9:12 p.m. I was in the kitchen, slicing carrots. Not for dinner, just out of habit. He stood in the doorway, arms folded. Is this a punishment? I didn't look up. It's a consequence. He blinked, like he hadn't expected that answer. Like maybe he thought I'd apologize. I gave you a roof, he said. I placed a carrot slice into a Tupperware. Mabel did. His jaw tensed. She left it for all of us. No, I said. She left it in trust. You just forgot the paperwork. The next morning I found my mother on the back porch, sipping tea. Your sister's crying upstairs, she said without turning. I said nothing. She says you're trying to ruin her wedding. I leaned on the doorframe. Selling a house isn't an act of revenge. It's an act of valuation. She finally turned. Her face was pale, less angry, more scared. What are you doing this for? Money? No. Then what? Balance. They tried to stop it. First came the pleas. I know we messed up. We were under pressure. It was just a car. Then the guilt. You'll split the money, right? We're still your parents. This is your home too. Sophie's going through so much right now. Then the bargaining. We can put your name on the deed officially. You can have the upstairs room. We'll make you a co-owner, full rights, tomorrow. I didn't nod, didn't argue. Just kept organizing the drawer where we kept expired coupons and broken pens. That weekend, the official letter of intent arrived. Certified mail, thick envelope, blue folder. I opened it in my room. Offer, $553,000. Terms, full cash, no contingencies. 30-day close. Attached was a blank signature line. Beneath it, as executor, please sign and return to initiate formal purchase agreement. I slid the document under my mattress. Let it breathe there, like a secret, slowly oxygenating. Sunday dinner came. Everyone sat at the table like nothing was different. Roast chicken, potatoes, gravy. It was almost theatrical. My mom poured wine. My father made small talk about the neighbor's new fence. Sophie talked about her bridal shower playlist. Then, like a director calling action, my mother said, "We've decided something." I paused mid-bite. "You were right," she said. "We weren't fair, and we want to make things right. So, we're offering full co-ownership, legally. We'll go to the notary tomorrow, no tricks." I chewed, swallowed. "Thank you," I said. They all relaxed a little. Hope returned to their posture. Then I added, "But the offer's already signed." Sophie dropped her fork. "What?" I stood, walked to the sideboard, pulled out the blue folder, opened it, slid the LOI across the table, pointed to the timestamp. Signed, submitted, received, 3 days ago. My mother's lips parted like she was about to speak, but no sound came. My father pushed his chair back, stared at the paper like it was on fire. Sophie blinked rapidly. "You can't sell the house. You can't." "I can. But you live here, too." "I won't." She stood. "Where are you even going to live?" I smiled. "Anywhere that doesn't treat me like wallpaper." That night, no one spoke to me. No doors slammed, no voices raised, just silence. Like the house itself was mourning its occupants. Like it knew its final days had arrived. Monday morning, I packed 2 bags, clothes, chargers, the drawing I'd made as a kid, the one with home equals safe. I flipped it over again, traced the faint lines of Mabel's old notes, took one last look at my room. Downstairs, I found Sophie sitting on the couch in a bathrobe. She looked up, eyes red. "You're really doing this?" I nodded. "You're ruining everything." I tilted my head. "Number, I'm just finally finishing something." She stared. I opened the door. "Lock up when the buyers leave." Outside, the air felt different, like the sky had finally cleared, like the house had exhaled. And I walked down the driveway without looking back. The day the moving truck pulled up, I wasn't there. I didn't need to be. James texted me a photo. Cardboard boxes on the curb, blinds drawn, the gold address numbers barely holding onto the siding. Then, keys handed off. Wire received, close confirmed. She's no longer yours. I screenshotted the message, not to remember the moment, to prove to myself it had actually happened. The wire hit that afternoon. After taxes and fees, my share sat in my account. $536,120.87. I didn't check it more than once. The money was never the goal. Just proof that the apology would never come, and that I didn't need it anymore. My parents moved into a 2-bedroom condo across town. Not bad, just smaller. No yard, no swing bench, no attic fan that groaned in the summer. They didn't tell anyone what happened. To neighbors, they said they downsized. To Sophie's fiancé, they said it was strategic. They invited me to the new place once. I declined. Sophie's wedding was quieter than planned. They'd booked the hall back when they assumed they had a yard for pre-photos, a family home to decorate, a place to host guests. Without it, the wedding photos were staged against a hotel lobby wall. She still looked radiant, but something in her smile didn't reach her eyes. I moved into a 3rd-floor walk-up with old wood floors and no elevator. The window faced west. Sunsets lived there. The neighbors played jazz. The grocery store was 1 block over, the bus stop too. Sometimes I walked instead of riding. I liked the feel of sidewalks. They didn't ask me to sacrifice anything. Clarissa helped me finish my real estate license. She said I had the most lethal quiet she'd ever seen. I took that as a compliment. I passed the exam with a 98%. Started helping clients the next week. Most of them didn't read the fine print, but I did. Every line, every clause, every caveat. Because I knew what people gave away when they weren't looking. Because I knew what I'd once had stolen in broad daylight with permission. I drive a used Corolla now. Gray. No badges. Paid in full. The plates are clean. No one ever asks who helped me buy it. Because no one thinks to ask who lost what to give me room. One afternoon, I drove past the old house. Not intentionally. The street just happened. The yard looked different. The shutters had been painted blue. The mailbox replaced. The swing bench was gone. But the tree was still there. Still leaning east like it had secrets. I slowed down. Just for a second. The window in what used to be my bedroom was open. Curtains fluttering like they didn't recognize me. I didn't stop. Didn't wave. Didn't cry. Just kept driving. People ask me sometimes, "What happened to your family?" I tell them, "Nothing. I just stopped financing them." These days, when I think of the word home, I don't think of rooms. I think of silence that doesn't ache, of space no one can revoke, of legal forms with only my name on them, of doors that lock from the inside, and that crayon drawing. I keep it above my desk now, not because it's true, but because I know who wrote it, and who erased it, and who rewrote it in her own hand. That's all for this story. I'll be back with another one. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It motivates me to create more content like this.